Hello, my little Tattle Tells. Elwood's reporting for duty. What is going on? Listen, let's get into the trial. Hope everybody's having a great night. But you know who's not probably having a good night? Tasha K. Now, remember, I kept speaking on when I was like, yo, we got to find the secret weapon. We got to find what Tasha K's secret weapon. Y'all, it's becoming more and more evident that the secret weapon might be gross incompetence to get Tasha K a mistrial. And I'm not even joking. Now, if you guys don't know, we are having two special guests tonight. I'm just going to give you guys a brief overview of what happened, and then our two special guests are going to come in. The first guest, of course, is going to be Lillie, Red Lipstick Hustler. She was actually in court today, so she can give us she can do a vibe check, right? Like, what was the vibe? What was going on? How were people making fools of themselves? However, we're also going to have defense attorney Johnda. She is highly acclaimed. She has a podcast. She has numerous years of experience. She's an all-around awesome person, but she is actually going to give us a legal breakdown of what she sees Cardi's B case doing, where she sees who is it? Tasha K's team dropping the ball, how they could fix it. But I was talking to her a couple of days ago, and her insight on this case was fascinating. I know I have my opinion. Of course, Lillie's going to, and everybody has their opinion. But at this point, I actually want to bring somebody who's actively practicing law to actually give us her opinion. And, listen, you're going to love Judge Johnda when she gets there. So let's go over the stuff really quick, right? Now, first things first. Let me just pull my notes up. It's a serious day. Let me take a drink out of my adult sippy cup. If you guys don't have, let me shut up. Y'all don't want to hear about this. Anyway, let's go, right? Now, just to let you guys know, there was no testimony today. There was absolutely no testimony today. Why? Because Tasha K's, the trial started at 12. This is very, very unusual, but it seems to be the usual for this case. The trial started at 12. Tasha K's lawyers, as was reported by Lillie last night, are trying to get new evidence admitted. Again, we talked about, if you guys weren't here, is a trial. You go to a trial conference, pre-trial conference. The pre-trial conference, that's where you set discovery, you set trial dates, you set exhibits, you set everything so that everybody knows when they're supposed to do stuff, right? Okay, great. You're not supposed to enter evidence that has not actually been given before. However, Tasha K's lawyers try to admit evidence that shouldn't have been there. That was already an issue. The judge, I want to say the judge took mercy on him, but you guys need to understand that judges do have discretion to let anything in, right? As long as it's within the limits of statutory time limits, judges can let anything in, right? So Tasha K's lawyers tried to admit evidence that weren't on the pretrial conference. And what happened? The judge actually said, okay, I'll allow it. We're going to have a little mini trial to look at the evidence. They looked at the evidence, but God, the evidence that they brought in was video evidence, and it was such a disaster. Let's go through it. I'm really worried about Tasha K. And before we get into this, you guys, again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I am looking at this like I am looking at a basketball game against two teams that I'm not really affiliated with. So it's more of a sport. I also want to say that in this live and in my channel, we like asking questions. We're not afraid to ask questions because here's the thing. I've always believed if something is the truth, it's going to stand up to questions. As a matter of fact, the more questions you ask, that's how you get to the truth. Because the truth, the more questions you ask, the stronger it gets. So you might have your fave. You might love Tasha K. You might hate her. You might love Cardi B. You might hate Cardi B. But on this channel, where we're discussing it, it's all about what the legal counselors are doing. There's the plaintiff and the defendant. And we're trying to see who's going to win this game. And court is a game. So if you guys don't like your fave being questioned, if you don't like obvious things being pointed out, then I don't know what to tell y'all. Hey, Erica, thank you so much for joining the Tattle Tells. So with that said, let's get to the main event, shall we? Okay, so let me go through my notes, right? They tried to get a lot of video evidence entered. The judge started arguing with them saying, stop. This doesn't help your client. How does this help your client? Part of the videos that they tried to get entered in were, I don't know if you guys remember or not, Cardi B used to be dragged a lot for being accused of being a colorist, right? Now, is she a colorist? I don't know. I haven't seen the evidence, right? People say they have the evidence. I really don't know. But she is being dragged for being a color. She was being dragged for being a colorist 2 years ago, right? You guys have to remember that with her Instagram raps, where girls would come at her and then she would call them like roaches. She would call them this. She called them that. And people said that she was colorist. A lot of her Instagram rants where she was attacking her fans, they tried to actually get admitted into evidence. Why? Because they were trying to say, this shows her character. This shows that we weren't attacking a meek little flower or a shrinking violet. She had the character that she runs toward conflicts. And while the things that Tasha K said about her might have been harsh, were they untrue? Do you see what I'm saying? They might have been harsh, but what do I have to call you a dumb bee? Okay, maybe that's harsh, but is it the fact that maybe you are not up to par with where I think a woman your age should be intellectually? Do you see what I'm saying? They were saying it's a little harsh. Now, that said, the judge had a response that a lot of you got. Hey, Johnda, I see you behind stage. Let me just go over this quick rundown and then I'll bring you on. Okay, Johnda is here. Lillie will be here in a few. We have a few times, and then we'll get into it. But the thing is, right? The judge had the same response a lot of us have. It don't matter if she was at a Klan rally, really, because she's suing you for lying on her. Your countersuit had nothing to do with her being a colorist, had nothing to do with her being a racist. And let me just be clear, I'm not saying Cardi B is any of those things, but the suit didn't have anything to do with her being a colorist or racist. She's not being sued for being racist, and I'm not being, and Cardi B is not suing Tasha K for saying she's a racist. She's suing you because she said that you lied, you slandered her, you said defamatory comments, and on top of that, you knew what you were saying were lies, and you knew it was causing her intense infliction of emotional distress. That's what you're being sued for. So the judge was looking at it and she was like, okay, but what's this got to do with the price of tea in China? Honestly, what are you guys trying to accomplish? Now, things got tense in the court. Again, they kept saying, Your Honor, we're just trying to establish character. Now, this goes back into her lawyers and what I deem is gross incompetence. The way you're trying to establish character is you just want everybody to think that Cardi B is a big meanie face that says mean things. And because she's a meanie face, she deserves everything that's coming to her. Y'all, that's not going to cut it in a court of law. Listen, me going outside, right? Let's just say you slapped the mess out of me. Maybe some of y'all would have slapped the mess out of me every day, right? Let's just say you slapped the mess out of me. And then I go out down the street and I take a bat and I hit somebody over the head, right? And then I sue you for slapping the mess out of me. And you try to bring up the fact that I hit somebody down the street with a bat. Again, what does me hitting somebody down the street with a bat have to do with you slapping me when I was just standing there? I'm just standing there. I don't say anything to you. You slap me. That's the way the judge was looking. Where are you guys going with this? You can't just establish somebody as a big meanie face. You need some type of nexus to the actual core issue. And the core issue is you said defamatory things. You've been accused of saying defamatory things about her. So what does her beefing with other people have to do with it? Okay. So the judge was like, kept saying, listen, I don't think it's a good idea for you guys to admit this evidence because if anything, this helps Cardi B's case out. If anything, it helps her out, right? Thank you so much for the super sticker, Rim. I appreciate it. Okay. We also go into, one big thing that happened, right? A juror may have to be removed from the case. Now, for why? One of the jurors' children got sick with COVID, right? The juror now has been exposed, and under CDC guidelines, they need to isolate, right? However, if that juror does go, the judge is thinking about what is he going to do. So I'm going to tell you why it's a little bit complicated. If not complicated, but everybody has an issue. If that juror does go, they'll have to bring an alternate juror in, right? An alternate juror is a juror that was basically put on the bench, right? You got the starting lineup jurors, and then you got a few jurors that are on the bench. The reason they're on the bench is because nobody really wanted them in the starting lineup to begin with. The reason I say that is both Cardi B and Tasha K's attorneys both agreed that they want that original juror to stay. So the judge is like, if you want them to stay, then that means we're going to have to delay this trial for 2 weeks, because that is the isolation period that the CDC recommends. However, one of the lawyers had a great suggestion. Now, you guys might be saying, we know it wasn't Tasha K's side. Come on with a great suggestion. You are right. Cardi B's team actually said, listen, how about we do this? Since everybody loves that juror, right? Everybody thinks that juror is going to swing their way. Why don't we have the juror tested to see if they come, and keep testing? And if they come back negative, then we will be allowed, instead of just taking a 2-week recess and bringing an alternate juror in, because nobody wants to see that alternate juror. Okay, the judge said that he is going to think about that and take that under consideration. Listen, there were 3 videos, I believe, that they tried, well, 4 total. There were 3 videos they tried to get submitted. Those are the videos the judge is like, I don't see what this has to do with it. Oddly enough, I believe one of those videos was a video rant against Azalea Banks. Y'all, why does Azalea Banks show up everywhere? Let me tell you something. If you don't, what was Azalea Banks? Was it Cheapy XO? And now it's, I think, Sea Queen, Azalea Banks, Sea Queen or Sea Mermaid. Listen, find Azalea Banks on Instagram. Find her on Twitter. She is a national treasure. I don't care what y'all say. Azalea Banks is so crazy. But the thing is, she's like one of those crazy shaman that 2 years later, you find out everything she said was right. Again, that's the Gemini power, right? Geminis always sound like they're crazy, but 2 years later, you're like, God damn it, they didn't call that mess. All right. Sorry. I'm having a dry curse January, because I don't want to curse anymore, because I want to get my algorithm up. Okay. So anyway, let's get into what else was going on. We also have, let's see what else happened. Let's see. Oh, the judge literally. Okay, so part of the evidence they tried to get admitted, right, to court were 2 things. It was one, the argument that she had with Offset's either father or father-in-law. When Lillie comes on, she can clarify, but I believe it was Offset's father. Him and Cardi B had gone back and forth, right? She was, according to her lawyer, Tasha K's lawyers, she was like hostile, aggressive. It showed her character, right? There was also another incident. Remember Jade, Tekashi 6ix9ine's girlfriend, right? I think she also has a kid with him, but his girlfriend, Tekashi 6ix9ine's girlfriend, Jade, who was also, I think, a bartender at a strip club, if I'm not mistaken. There was also interaction between her and Jade, right? There was also interaction between her and Jade. I believe they actually got in a scuffle or something or other, but there is a pending case about that. They tried to get that admitted as part of her character. The judge literally ripped them apart. He basically told him, get out of here with this dog and pony show. You guys, this is first year law school stuff. You guys should know this. What you are trying to do is admit hearsay. And that is unacceptable. Hearsay is something that is said outside the court, right? That cannot be used as evidence in the court, right? When somebody says outside the court, it is if you are sitting in the witness stand and something is said either in the witness stand, first person, or it's said on some type of, what do you call it? Not subpoena, affidavit. Some type of affidavit, is that it? So deposition. So if you do a sworn affidavit, or if it is taken, statements taken, right, in a deposition, they can be used. But the thing is with hearsay, right? I cannot say, I heard Cardi B say this, right? All I can say is past recollections recounted, right? I can ask you questions like, so what did you think Cardi B's intent was in saying those words? I can't say what did Cardi B say, right? Because that's hearsay. Because Cardi B did not say it in the witness stand in court. This is something very important to remember, right? So we don't know whether she said it or not. You're taking my word for it. That is hearsay. It was not said in the court, and in the court means in a witness stand with a deposition, right, or in a sworn affidavit. Those all affidavit, that all counts, right? So I couldn't just flat out ask you. You can ask me, what did Cardi B say, right? No, but you could say things like past recollection recounted. Okay, how was Cardi B acting? What was her mood? In your opinion, what was her intent? In your opinion, you ask around it because you're asking about anything that I can say on how what she said made me feel, made me see, made me observe. Anything like that can be admitted, but they were just literally trying to get in basic hearsay. Hearsay is never, ever, ever admitted. And anyone in first year law school, or anybody that watches Law and Order should actually know that. Her lawyers were trying to get hearsay entered in. The judge said absolutely not. He said because that trial with Jade is ongoing and none of the accusations, Jade is Tekashi 6ix9ine's baby's mom, and none of those allegations have been proven true. To actually bring that in would be prejudicial. She has not been convicted of anything. We don't know if it's true. Why are we bringing in maybes from another court, right, into this court? You're basically bringing in hearsay again. Now we got double hearsay. What is wrong with you guys? The judge literally yelled at them that, come on, even first year law school students should know this. Literally told them that. The judge at one point, remember I said that there were 4 videos they tried to get entered in? 3 of them, the judge was like, it doesn't help your case. It doesn't matter. I want everybody to know that while all this was happening, there were no jurors in the room, right? They were only there for about 2 hours. There were no jurors in the room, so it's not like he was tainting jurors. However, there is a 4th video that they are trying to get in, right? Not prosecution, why do I keep saying that? That's criminal. The plaintiffs have to review it. The judge needs to review it. And he said that he would decide on it. He did not decide today. As far as I know, when Lillie comes in, she will actually clarify, right? What else was going on, right? Also, Cardi B, remember that countersuit that got thrown out? Cardi B had a countersuit against, Tasha K had a countersuit against Cardi B. Cardi B, launched a great defense. That whole countersuit got thrown out. If you guys don't know what the countersuit was, Tasha K was actually saying that Cardi B had instructed members of the Blood Gang in New York. I don't know why. This sounds like a Lifetime movie. Every time I hear these facts, who would have thought in 2022, right? It's the end of days. Tasha K, Cardi B, New York Bloods, right? Or are they New York Pyro Bloods, whatever. New York Bloods and Azalea Banks, Tekashi 6ix9ine would all be in the same sentence dealing with a court of law. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up, right? Sorry. So, in anything, right? Listen, no, here's the thing. He said that he would review the tape to see if that tape could be admitted. I'll ask Lillie, and I'll actually do some research when Lillie and when Johnda actually come on, but I'm pretty sure that one piece of evidence has not been admitted. The judge just didn't say, no, you can't put it in, right? Now, let's get back into this. The lawsuit, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. He also threatened her lawyers, right, with contempt of court if they keep trying to admit hearsay in. Now, guys, I don't know if you guys have any legal background. It doesn't matter. Even if you only watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit, you know that hearsay is never, ever, 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 ever admitted. Fun fact, they are not civil attorneys. They are criminal attorneys. And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, why she have criminal attorneys? But listen, criminal attorneys are great attorneys. And most criminal attorneys can actually do civil as well. But here's the thing. Criminal attorneys, more than anyone, know that hearsay is unacceptable and it is a no-no. It will never be accepted. And you guys know this, right? Again, everybody keeps saying that Tasha K's, these lawyers represent her in smaller matters before, and she thought she was good. Getting back to the countersuit, she accused Cardi B of masterminding, much like a crime kingpin, to get the New York Bloods to beat her up, hurt her family, out of this, that, and the third. And she was countersuing for $3 million. The countersuit got thrown out because the judge said, listen, maybe you have evidence that these members of the blood gang were trying to hurt you, right? And maybe some of them even said it was on behalf of Cardi B. However, you have no evidence showing us, and I have found no evidence showing us, that besides those people saying Cardi B did it, which could be looked at as hearsay because they are the guilty parties, that Cardi B was actually connected to this. Now, and I admit it looks a bit funny that your friend, it's kind of like if y'all were just like, yo, your friends put a hit out on me, and you're like, oh, I ain't got nothing to do with that. And I'm like, what do you mean you ain't got nothing to do with that? We're in court, we're arguing, your friends put a hit out on me? Again, the judge said, great, I understand. Take it up with those people, because right now I still don't see any nexus between that and Cardi B. What else went on? Johnda is here. We're going to bring her on in a second, and Lillie will be here shortly. They kept showing the video. Again, the big point of contention was that video where Cardi B is alleged to have said very colorist things, maybe broaching on racism, but of course, Cardi B is not white, so we can't really use the term racism, right? Again, their whole point of doing this is to try to admit evidence. So the same way last week, when Tasha K's lawyers were getting whipped up and down the court, dragged to the bailiff and back down, when literally, Cardi B's team was wiping the floor with Tasha K's team, and everybody was looking at Tasha K like, you're a big meanie, you're vile, we don't like you. They want the same opportunity to do that with Cardi B. And I heard a lot of you guys say it's a little bit too late, because Cardi B's been established as someone that is very genuine, very caring, very soft, very vulnerable, right? Especially considering she said that all this caused me a lot of emotional distress. So it would behoove her to show her vulnerability. I do just want to say, though, in the interest of fairness, and again, this is just me playing devil's advocate, and I'm going to bring Johnda on whenever she gets up here. This is just in the interest of devil's advocate, right? Let me just bring Johnda on, and we're going to say, listen, no. Hold on really quick, guys. Okay. So we have just Johnda in here. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
How are you doing? I'm so glad that you can join. So you have been following this case for a minute. Why don't you give me your takeaway of the case?
Wow. It is something. Am I giving you an echo? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Go on.
Okay, just making sure. It is disturbing, to say the least, especially when I look at what appears to almost be a David and Goliath thing going on in the courtroom, with the legal teams, with client control, all of these things. What I'm seeing, and this is not to disparage either side, it's just objectively observing. What I am seeing from the one side, win or lose, is a team that came in with a client prepared to get the job done. They came in prepared to make their client likable. They came in prepared to make their client appear sympathetic, smart, understanding of the fact that she has a certain image and not hiding from it, but being very clear about what this did to her, and not to react or get goaded into things, because of course the other side tried that. And then of course them just even in the types of, and I think I said this to you before, even in the types of causes of action that they sought, just masterful in terms of going after this, in terms of not just slander, but slander per se, where damages don't have to be proven in terms of Cardi's career, which is what everybody assumes. Well, this hasn't cost her anything and all that, and we'll get into that in a moment. But just an example of how they came back, even amending the complaint and adding intentional infliction of emotional distress, because that was actually not one of the original causes of action. They went back into their complaint and not only added that, but added it in a way that makes it viable for her. On the flip side, from the other side, even if I were to, because I try to be, especially to, just like you do, you don't like to talk about other bloggers or whatever. Same thing here, trying to be gracious to my fellow barristers. Even with that, client control can be tough. And a lot of what is happening with Tasha K, yes, there have certainly been some missteps, arguably, by the attorneys. I hear a lot of the criminal versus civil and all of that. You said it best a few moments ago. There are certain things, and one of them are just basic rules of evidence, like it's issues like hearsay and all of that. Those things are things we all learn, and that doesn't change no matter where you go. Exactly. Now, the element.
Wait, just to stop you guys. I see you guys going crazy in the comments. Listen, just to clarify, we know what hearsay is. It is information you do not have direct knowledge of. It was not said directly to you, but you have knowledge of it. Yes. Thank you, Legal Eagles. However, my whole thing of past recollections recorded or other ways that hearsay can be admitted into evidence still does stand. You can't say, oh, well, I know for a fact they said that, but I can remark on, well, how did Johnda look when she said it? How do you think Johnda reacted to it? You can, anyway, we will get into that in a second.
Yeah, we definitely will, because there was some things that I was like, Tisa and I would get into that. Like the feeling, how do you think the person felt? Of course, no, you're not inside the person's head. So a judge is going to gavel you down on that. But the bottom line is, yes, we know that it doesn't, we don't have to get into the weeds on what hearsay is and what hearsay isn't. The judge in the courtroom today told y'all what it was and kicked them out. That's the bottom line.
And that's an important thing to know. When you are in a court of law, a lot of people think they can be in front of the judge and be like, but Your Honor, on page 73 on the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, it says A, B, and D. And the judge is like, let me see that. Boom, sit down. No, we're not admitting it. Let's move on. So go on.
And you can certainly put, and you should put that objection on the record. It's available. It will become available for you later on appeal, because that may be an appealable issue that you say in your petition for appeal that the judge made inappropriate rulings. That's the number one thing that you try to get in the appeal. So you want to get that objection on record, and her people did. The other Cardi's people objected. The judge made a ruling. It's preserved for the record that the judge made a ruling against them. And now if they want to later on use that on appeal, they can knock themselves out. But for the purposes of today and what happens in the current trial that's going on, the judge made his ruling. And that's it. Like we always say, the court speaks through his orders. And the court spoke, and that's it.
Okay, so listen, we're going to walk through it. I really want you to share your unique insight into where her lawyers. Well, I want to focus on Tasha K's lawyers for a moment. And I want you to tell me where you see her lawyers dropping the ball. I might interject every now and then just so I can explain maybe terms of art to people so it's easier for everyone to follow. Whoever knows the law, that is great. I'm glad that you guys were like your legal eagles.
I love great conversation.
Yes, and for the people that know law, that passed their 3L year with flying colors, congratulations. The people that got 180 on the LSAT, congratulations. But we're going to explain it to people that might not be lawyers. Now, first question I want to ask you. Do you think there's been a lot of rumors, right? And you have a lot of trial experience. So I'm going to ask you, do you think that their gross incompetence, their ace in the hole, is actually laying the ground for a mistrial?
No, I really don't. And Part of it is when I spent some time, because it's been a minute since I dug through Pacer for this particular case, because there's always something. And this case, outside of our presence, has been litigated. I mean, they were constantly, there's motions back and forth, conferences. This case has been litigated to death since it was filed in 2019. So there has been ample opportunities for, just like, you know, there's opportunities for Cardi to settle. There's been ample opportunities for Tasha K to settle. There's been ample opportunities for her to even take a look at the direction she was heading in with this particular team. Because as I was alluding to earlier, while they may, you know, I think that there are many of us who could argue back and forth all day long about whether or not they were the right team to try this case, given how it's going. And not even so much how it's going, because you can be the best lawyer in the world and just have a dog of a case, and the judge smacks you around the courtroom just because you're trying to turn a pig's foot into a silk purse, and it's just not working. In this particular instance, the pig's foot is their client, because she keeps putting it in her mouth. I mean, that is just the reality of it. Even if her lawyers I would hope, I mean, we're going to hope, right? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they had trial prep, right? Because we're not going to dog anybody. That's not what we're here for, right? So let's give it the benefit of the doubt that just like Cardi and her team sat around for however many hours doing trial prep, we'll give the benefit of the doubt that Tasha and her team sat around doing trial prep, right? We're just gonna all give. Everybody, right? We're being fair.
They act like they met up in the parking lot, had some Egg McMuffins and coffee.
Exactly.
And said, "I'm sorry, what is your name again? You are Tasha." Literally,
but again, some of this is their client. And I know that there's going to be people in the comments, go ahead and beat me up. You're probably going to say, oh, she's trying to defend the attorneys. I don't know these people. Never met them in my life. And there's attorneys that are great and there's some that suck. So it's not about that. But what I saw from Tasha K herself, and I guess maybe I'm a little more sensitive or attuned to it, because I've had clients like that, where even under the best of circumstances, you just, whether they were sitting next to me at the counsel table and I wanted to stab them with a pencil, or whether they were on the stand and I wanted to do like Tasha K's attorneys were probably doing, like practically voguing to try to stop her from saying stuff. I'm telling you, Tasha K got on the stand and decided that she was going to be, at least what I saw in the you know, we all read Law 360 or whatever. What I saw and heard and what I read and from eyewitness accounts, Tasha K decided to go in that courtroom, at least the day one, not so much today. Didn't go so well. But at least on the first day, she decided to go in that courtroom and give them Tasha K. She decided to go in that courtroom and, I don't know, maybe get the jury to start following her blog. The things that she said, hi, I was hoping you'd be here tonight to add some color to this as well. The things, and you tell me, because you were actually there, the things that she said and the way that she said them, the arrogance that came across. And I, you know, as Black women, you know, we try to tread lightly with certain words, right? About arrogance and aggressiveness, because we're supposed to be well behaved. But sometimes you got to call a thing a thing. If somebody's arrogant, they're arrogant. If they're aggressive, they're aggressive. And she came across as arrogant. Is it true that the video has over 3 million views? Yes or no was the answer. In fact, the judge admonished her about not giving yes or no answers. Would she just give yes or no? Actually, it's more than 4.3 million. First of all, nobody asked you that, heifer. And second, you're making this situation hard for yourself.
But again, I just have to play devil's advocate. First of all, we have to do two. This is great. We'll pause this. One, I want to say thank you so much to Culinary Air for the $50 super chat. You guys, we're gonna have to interrupt because since you guys are not liking this, I gotta make my money somehow. But if you want, please hit the like button. That would be greatly appreciated. It does actually help me out. And come on,
yes, hit those likes.
Yes, get those likes up. Now, also, we just had Lillie join us. If you were on the channel last night, you would actually know Lillie, she has been on the ground in the court.
Yes, Lillie.
So that's why I wanted her and Johnda to come talk, because Lillie can tell us what she heard, right? Past recollection recounted, right? Not hearsay, right? She can literally tell us what she heard. Yes, what she heard. And on top of that, Johnda can kind of round it out to be like what the lawyers were actually thinking and saying. Now, I want to say this, right? To me, and I know you have a lot of experience. I just have two quick questions, right? One, do you think them being criminal attorneys as opposed to civil really made any type of, if they were qualified, made that much of a difference to justify this issue that everybody says is going on?
Not at all.
Not at all. No,
I'm sorry. I was supposed to wait for you to answer the question. No, I knew you were going to ask me that. Not at all.
Why do you think that is?
Because there are certain things that are happening, especially like the issues that went on today. And actually, they had the same issues yesterday, too, to a certain degree, as it relates to the entry of evidence, providing things to the other side. These are basic issues. You did a great job talking about this, I think either yesterday or the day before, about the fact that there are pre-trial meetings, there are deadlines for providing information to the other side. Usually we come with stacks and notebooks and different things like that. You also, depending on the other side to put in evidence that you're going to use, I don't care if you have to have 50 copies of the same document because you never know when you're going to use it, then you just have 50 copies of the same document. So there are some things that have absolutely nothing to do with the type of lawyer you are in terms of civil, criminal, all of that. There's basic lawyering. There is basic trial prep providing. And a lot of these things, again, with the civil and criminal things, a lot of these things are driven by the rules of the court. So there's also the element of it not mattering because the court itself has certain rules of that you must follow when things must be turned in, when we make these decisions. So even if you just simply follow the black letter rules of that court, it is what it is. I guess the best way to look at it is the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, because there is no civil Supreme Court or a criminal Supreme Court or whatever. There's just the United States Supreme Court. And the way that your petition of the Supreme Court has to be, the number of pages, the cover sheets, and all of that, that's the same for everybody. So you just follow the freaking rules.
Okay. Now, okay, so definitely follow this. So if I understand what you're saying that when people are saying, oh, it's because they were criminal, not civil, it's basically saying like, listen, some chefs cook Asian food, some chefs cook French food, but at the end of the day, all chefs know you don't throw water in hot oil. It's the basics of cooking. It doesn't matter what type of food you cook. We all know these basics, so they should know better.
Now, granted, there are specific, for one way to put picadillos, as it relates to certain causes of action that then your experience comes into play, right? Whether or not you are somebody who has done divorce work versus someone who has done criminal work, whether even a criminal attorney who has done DUIs versus one who's experienced doing murders. There are, so absolutely you want people who are experienced at what you do. But I guess my issue is with this is the mistakes that we have seen thus far and the issues that have come up with her counsel a lot of these issues that have come up thus far have been related to just generally trying the case, not having anything to do with the actual causes of action. Now, when they get to the point of getting into the meat and potatoes of the actual causes of action, arguing damages, all of that, then we will separate the meat from the chaff in terms of, are they good at understanding how damages work? Maybe she should have got, somebody who worked for, the Girardi firm, or something like that. But right now, what we've been dealing with, especially since the case wasn't even theirs until yesterday, a lot of what we've been dealing with is how they have been reacting to the case that's been that has been put on by Cardi's side, which is basically them just having to react and ask questions and keep their client under control. We're seeing them fall apart doing that. That's not civil or criminal.
That's the problem. Now, here's the thing. Maxilla Desser, thank you so much for the super chat, said, I was under the impression that Tasha K had enough money to get a decent lawyer. She does. I don't know what y'all talking about. Tasha K maybe has millions in savings. You guys are delusional at how much these YouTubers make. You can look at her. I'm not even going to get into that woman's pockets, but I'm telling you, no, she definitely does have enough money to get a decent lawyer. You hate to see it. Okay, so aside from, we don't know what's in her we don't know what's in her mind. I don't know, literally. If it was me, I would have stood up and been like, Your Honor, like, you're done. That's it, Your Honor. We're going to need some type of recess. We're going to need some type of adjournment. I need to get new counsel. I'm firing them on the spot. When I left that stand, right, and they got literally threatened with contempt for trying to signal me, I'd have been like, I would have been like Beyonce, somebody getting fired. Remember she was on stage performing and said someone's getting fired. Now, listen, let's mix in the real life account of what happened. Lillie, thank you so much for joining again. I need to know everything from the time you walked in the courthouse, right? What the mood was, how the judges were acting, lawyers and whatnot. And then we're going to run it by Johnda to actually get her impression about, like, okay, legally, what do you think was happening? So, Lillie, when you walked into the courthouse, right? What was the mood? How was Tasha K and her husband acting?
Tasha, like I told you, she's sitting kind of turned. And I had time to think about it, why she's kind of turned, which she still should have turned forward. But they have her against a wall. Cardi is in the center where her and her 4 attorneys. Then Tasha K and her 2 attorneys are over at a table. And it's so strange that her attorneys have her against the wall. She's sitting against the wall. Okay, this is the table. Tasha K's attorney is right here. Then Tasha K is over here against the wall.
So she didn't have enough room. That's why she was kind of turned.
Well, no. Well, not really. She still should have turned to the front. It would have been a better look.
Okay. So she had room ample to turn to the side, but maybe that's just the way she sits. So I want to ask you, Johnda, because
but everything is strategy.
Okay, so you think that's a strategy?
I'm with you. And I'm not saying it's not even so much strategy, but everything. When you're in the courtroom, you have to be aware of everything because there is someone always watching, especially if it's a jury trial. At least if it's a judge trial, the only eyeballs you have to be concerned about is the judge. In a jury trial, of course, you've got the eyeballs of, I think they're down to 9 at this point. Is that, I think that's my understanding.
Well, I think 8 now.
Okay, so you've got 8 sets of eyeballs plus the judge that you have to be concerned about. So when I say strategy, I don't necessarily mean like they came up, I don't mean that they came up with it like as a way of her winning. I mean, there could be a concern perhaps because a lot of times, especially in a big trial, and if depending on the firm, they may have law clerks or interns or maybe someone else from the firm in the room who may be concerned about maybe faces that Tasha's making or anything that she is doing that could possibly be off-putting for the jury. So I guess my question to you in terms of assessing that is the way that she was sitting and kind of, like you said, against the wall and it sounds like a little behind them. And I know you're behind her, so it's probably hard to tell, but just from your purview, did it seem like she was sort of shielded from the jury a little bit, like maybe one of her attorneys? If the jury is over here, and her attorney's sitting here and she's behind them, did it appear to you that maybe it was like kind of an obstructed view?
Did the juries have a clear line of sight to Tasha, or did her attorneys kind of shield her? So maybe they couldn't actually see Tasha's face.
It wasn't. I don't think it was about shielding her. No, because her attorney's not organized enough to think that way.
No, but could they clearly see Tasha's face?
You can see her. Yes, you can see her.
Okay.
Because I'm sitting on the side where the jurors are.
Oh, okay. So if you could see her, they could see her. You can
definitely see her. It's just that it's rather awkward because it seemed like how Cardi's attorneys had her on the end of the table. Tasha's attorneys has her on the other end against the wall.
Okay.
And Tasha's husband is behind them at a table by himself, and he's sitting on the end. Well, Tasha should have been on the end with her attorneys. So
you're saying the optics were all off. Even
it was off, y'all.
I don't even practice law, but this just doesn't look right. Get it together. Now,
the other piece with that was Tasha's husband. You said he was at it.
He was behind them at another table, and he's sitting on the end instead of against the wall. He's not against the wall.
Okay, is he closer to the attorneys than Tasha is?
He's closer to Cardi's attorneys.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Because the visual with that too, remember, Tasha's husband represents the corporate entity of this, and Tasha is allegedly the talent. Now, I hope we'll get into that a little bit because I do think the corporate veil was pierced on this last week by her husband. However, that even the way that they sit, it's to again keep that separation. Here's corporate Kibi, and she's the talent.
Okay.
Now I want to pause that right there because this is a question a lot of people have been asking. And listen, I know just like you're a lawyer, you don't want to badmouth other lawyers, right? Just like I'm a YouTuber, I stay away from YouTube beats. Like, I'm not in it, right? But I want to ask you, why do you think, what possessed her husband to actually take the stand?
Well, she didn't. Look, I can't even talk. They didn't call him. This is what again is so good with Cardi's team. Tasha K's lawyers didn't call him to the stand. Cardi's lawyers called him to the stand. Even when Tasha testified, and I think that that's something that is so cool that we need to make clear. In a lot of cases, you don't get, especially in criminal cases, obviously you have a right to remain silent, so it's just not going to happen. Yeah. So this is definitely where you see a civil criminal difference big time here. Is when Tasha K took the stand the first time, and that may be something a lot of people don't understand because you're like, wait a minute, why is Tasha taking the stand again? She took the stand last week. When Tasha K and her husband were on the stand the first time, they were not on the stand as witnesses for themselves. They were on the stand as witnesses for Cardi. That's what makes their performance even more horrible. Because remember, it is Cardi who is the plaintiff. Therefore, she goes first. Like you said, you've been saying for days, and you're correct. The burden's on her. So she went first. So what's really cool and interesting about that, a lot of people are learning something new, so I hope you are, that about what happened last week that people hardly ever see, is that because this Cardi's beef here, so to speak in layman's terms, Cardi's issue is what was said about her. Therefore, what needs to go on the stand is the purveyor of the things that were said about her. The person who said those things just happens to be the person that she was suing. So that is what makes Tasha's performance on the stand, as bad as it was, and I hope that I'm explaining that in a way that people understand, as bad as it was, now if you truly understand what I just said, doesn't it make it sound even worse? Because technically those were Cardi's attorneys putting her on the stand to make their case. And she did, because instead of saying yes or no, which is what they remember, they were asking her yes, no questions, correct? They were asking her yes, no.
They were.
She kept running off with the mouth. You're running off with the mouth when they put you on to make their case.
But back to my original question. So one, she wasn't prepped to say, listen, it's if they ask you a yes or no question, do not expand. So basically what John is trying to say is they brought them. So when the other side calls you up, it's never going to be anything nice, right? They're not calling up. They don't want to do anything but use your own words to put a stake through your heart.
In a case like this.
In a case like this. So when you come like that, right? It's like, imagine, right? You just got caught like sneaking back in the house and you're 16, right? And your parents are like, what do we tell you? Right? Silence is the best option. If they tell you, if they yes to say you talk, it's like you just sit there like, I ain't saying anything. If they ask you a yes or no question, you mumble the yes or no. You don't expand, because you know anything you say, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a little crumb. And Tasha gave them all this
proudly.
Yes, all this unnecessary information that they literally gathered up like, ooh, keep it coming. When a simple
and it's not like they didn't know it, but they didn't even have to argue it because she said it. And then you also asked about her husband. I'm sorry, I got off the husband because I just wanted to make that point, because I think that that's something, even when I've been going across the internet and looking at all the commentary, I think that's an issue that has gotten lost. And I get it, because when do you see the person who's in trouble? Because we always think of these things in terms of criminal cases. And in criminal cases, you don't have to take the stand. But in a situation like this, under the best evidence rule, the best, if the person is alive and able to say what it is that they said, then we're not using recordings. We're not using that. I mean, we're going to use recordings as evidence of the show. But when we talk about whether or not you are the one who said it, because what they did to put her up there, and then she kept talking. Remember, when you are using, or for those who don't know, I keep forgetting, we're going to talk like nobody knows this. When you put recordings or writings or anything in court, you have to authenticate them. The person who would be able to authenticate that Tasha K's videos are indeed Tasha K is Tasha K. So she was put on the stand to authenticate her own videos. And then while we have you up here, we're going to ask you these questions about the things you said in the videos.
Okay, so I have one more question.
The same thing with her husband.
Okay, so Johnda, I have one more question for you, and then we're going to jump into Lillie, because Lillie, I have so many questions for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Johnda, if that's the case, why didn't Tasha take the Fifth, and why didn't her husband take the spousal immunity?
As far as Tasha taking the Fifth, not applicable here, because Fifth Amendment is related to your right to, it's basically tied in with your right to remain silent, essentially.
Okay.
When you plead the fifth, you are pleading the fifth as it relates to criminal prosecution. Criminal prosecution is not the case here, so the fifth doesn't apply.
So why did her husband take spousal immunity then?
The spousal immunity situation relates to communication between spouses. He was not being asked about communications with Tasha K. He was put up there as the owner or president or whatever his title, official title is, of Kibi Studios. And of course, if things had gone the way one would hope they would go, in the way that I would have hoped they were going, if I had put him on this, if he were my client, then I would have what I would have had him prepared to say, whether he's being cross-examined, questioned by the plaintiff, it doesn't matter. The party line is, in order to keep that LLC separate and not pierce the corporate veil, is I am a corporation. She is an employee of that corporation. And why, yes, all employers do bear some measure of liability for that. There is a set of rules that we have and a set of standards that we have as a corporation. When we found out that she was doing XYZ, we said that that is not something that you were supposed to do. She chose to do it anyway. She's a rogue employee. Therefore, when it comes to Kibi Enterprises or LLC or whatever they call themselves, because remember, they're being sued as well. When it comes to us, our liability should be reduced to the most minimal level of, okay, she just happened to work for us. However, that is not what he did. What he did, and again, a lot of people focused on the wrong thing. Everybody was so focused on the fact that he basically called his wife a liar, which he did, and that's a big deal. Because, you know, you got to go home with this man. So,
and the jury.
The jury's
like, if the jury is like, if your own husband is throwing you under the bus, calling you a liar.
But it's an even bigger deal. And I know we need to wrap this up so that, because I want to hear about what happened today.
Yes.
It's a big deal that he did that from a credibility standpoint, because ultimately, Tasha K is going to testify on her own behalf. And if the jury is already looking at her like she's not a credible witness because her own husband's saying she's a liar, then nothing she says is going to matter. If I'm a juror and I already think you're a liar, then I don't care about anything you say. So that's a credibility problem, but it's also a bigger issue as it relates to the LLC, because when he told that jury that Tasha is the person who solely decides what goes on the air, then essentially you are saying that Tasha K and Kibi, especially since they also found out from the husband that literally the only thing that's under that LLC, despite the lie that he said his wife told the day before, is her show. So if her show is the only thing under your corporation, then essentially they're one and the same. And you just said that this only entity, the only reason your corporation exists, that this person makes all the decisions. Well, guess what? You have just put your LLC front and center right there with Tasha, because these two things are one and the same. They are not separate, for, like we said earlier with the thing. So that's what made his saying that. It was important on multiple levels. From just a visibility standpoint, it was important because you don't want somebody who needs to get a jury to believe them to look like a liar before, after, or during the time they take the stand. Problematic. Absolutely. but problematic also from a logistical standpoint in terms of them being separate defendants. So
okay, thank you so much for explaining that. Thank you so much. Okay, so a lot of you guys I see, listen, the court transcripts are not out yet. However, we have someone that was actually sitting in the courtroom. Lillie, let's get back into this. Okay, so You sitting there, the trial starting. Tasha's in the corner, kind of turned to the side. Her husband is sitting in a table behind her. Cardi's sitting there. What was Cardi's demeanor like?
Cardi was very comfortable. I'm gonna tell you why I know she was comfortable, because she was just like rubbing her hair and moving around in her seat, because the seat swirled. She was good. I'm gonna tell you, she knows she got it in the bag. I'm gonna be honest.
This is my Cardi wig
she
today.
has it in the bag.
Okay, so she knows. So Cardi's in the court exuding. Now I saw a few not blurry pictures, but a few camera phone pictures of Tasha K moving to the court, and she looked stressed. Did Tasha K look stressed when she entered the courtroom, or even while her lawyers were up there talking to the judge?
She looked stressed the entire time.
Did she?
Even when she left, she looked stressed.
And what was the demeanor?
I saw that video too.
Yes. And what was the demeanor of her lawyers? Were her lawyers, even though we think that they're setting her case on fire, were her lawyers like, did they seem competent? Did they seem like capable? Or did they seem like, I don't know, just giving off really weird energy?
They don't come off confident at all.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
I feel bad even hearing that.
I'm being honest. They don't come off confident at all.
Okay, so let's talk
because
about.
You don't have to be a white shoe law firm to be competent. And I want to make that clear when people talk about money. You can get an attorney that's $1,200 an hour and they be great, or they suck. You can get an attorney that's $300 an hour and they are great, or they suck. What you need to be concerned about is their advocacy. And when you're looking at their experience, their track record of advocacy and what they have done for their clients, you will have people in there that will go and argue somebody's socks off. Johnny Cochran wasn't always getting the O.J. Simpson and Michael Jackson rate, but he was the bomb from day one. And if you ask any of his colleagues, they'll say, we knew that man was a superstar from the attorney room, but he wasn't always making $1,500 an hour.
I completely agree, but let me just get back to Lillie, because Lillie,
I know confidence scares me.
Yes, definitely. But let me get back to Lillie, because Lillie, I know you got to get up early because it's another day in court tomorrow. So let's try to get through this. But to Johnda's thing, don't ever let somebody tell you that a $1,200 lawyer is better than a no. Maybe it is, because that's why they're charging $1,200. But don't let the cost of a lawyer be the sole thing for doing it, because sometimes people will just get what they think they can get out of you. So that said, Lillie, let's get back into this, right? So let's get to that part of the process where the judge started admonishing Tasha K's lawyers, talking about, you need to go, like any law school student would know this, when they were trying to admit evidence and the judge kept saying, this is hearsay, this is hearsay. What did
Lillie, did you get secondhand embarrassment?
Yes, I'm starting to feel sorry for Tasha K, because I feel embarrassed for her.
But even her attorneys.
You said what now? I can barely hear you.
No, go ahead.
So if you feel, you said you felt embarrassed for Tasha K's lawyers. Why did you feel embarrassed for them?
Because I felt embarrassed because the judge stated to her attorneys, you need to go back to your first year of law school.
And what did the attorneys do when the judge told them that? What was their response?
Nothing. They was in shock. I can tell they was in shock. It was nothing they can do, because they already in a bad situation with the judge. So there's nothing they could have done. They embarrassed.
Was the judge's tone with them, and this is just hearing their tone, did he sound, and I'm just trying to get the vibe in the courtroom. I want you to make us feel like you're there. Did he sound like he was annoyed? Did he sound like he was starting to give them pity? Did he just sound tired? Like, what did he sound like to them?
All of that wrapped in one. Everything you said wrapped in one.
Really?
Because he's frustrated, but then he's starting to feel sorry for them. I can tell he's starting to feel sorry for them. And I can tell he's starting to feel sorry for Tasha K, but there's a job that has to be done.
Now, when he admonished her lawyers, telling them to go back to law school, what did you see Tasha K even?
She was like, and she was like, what's going on to her attorneys.
Really? And what did her attorneys do? Were they trying to?
They still trying to, because the guy, he has a mouth on him. That's
The judge.
the guy.
No,
to
her
the judge.
attorney.
Yeah,
Her
attorney.
has
I
a mouth
can't
on
remember
him.
his name, and I'm gonna get to. You know what I'm
That's
gonna do, because
part
I
of
don't
the
take
thing
notes.
that's
I'm gonna
pissing
take
the
notes
judge
tomorrow
off.
for you. I cannot remember his name because it's not an American name.
Okay.
Let me see.
He has a mouth. He wants to keep babbling at the judge, and the judge let him know, I will get you for contempt to court. You want to go to jail, or you going to pay a fine?
Wait, slow down. You said he kept babbling to the judge. Let's role play. I'm the judge. Objection
I can't remember
overruled.
word for word.
Well, no. I just want you to give me the vibe. You don't have to listen. We know you're not word for word, but what was the vibe? Let's role play. I'm the judge. And I'm like, counselor, no, objection overruled. What would he like? What was the vibe? Would he argue back like, well, why am I not overruled?
Okay, he was arguing, and the judge was like, I don't care if your client does say she wants to use this. You cannot use this. And he was like, well, he just kept babbling at the mouth. He was doing his hands too, how Tasha K does. Her attorney and her personality is the same. He was like, he just like, but he wouldn't shut up. Even talking over the judge.
He was over talking the judge. And at that point, this is where the judge was just getting heated. Like, just frustrated. Like, can you please stop, right? But when they admonished them, going back to that point, Tasha K was looking like, what's going on? And did her attorney just meekly sit down, or was he arguing back? Not arguing back, but was he pressing the issue with the judge?
He was pressing the issue. And I think that may have been his way of trying to show Tasha K he fighting for her, but he's hurting her. He's hurting her case.
Now, I will say that I have noticed that a lot of times, you said that made an interesting point. Her judge, her lawyer, it's just like her personality. A lot of people hire lawyers that are their personality, but know the law. So when sometimes you see a barracuda and an a-hole lawyer, that's because the client is an a-hole, and they're just hiring someone to go at them, you know? So
that's why she has the attorneys that she has, because that's her personality, you guys.
It's her personality, but like you said yesterday, she's a different Tasha K in the courtroom, probably because she's a fish out of water. Now, how about this, right?
Well, she was a different Tasha K this week. Interestingly enough, which is really kind of crazy, I would have preferred the kind of sad, confused, whatever Tasha, like you said, stumbling on her words and whatever, Tasha K last week when Cardi B's people were asking her the ugly, gritty stuff, because now she's the downtrodden, can hardly get her words out person. Well, big whoop, the jury already saw you last week basically agree to everything Cardi B's attorneys were saying about how you were practically terrorizing their client. That was the time to be confused.
Now, I have a question for you, Johnda. And, we're just going to answer it briefly, then get back to Lillie. But I have a question for you. In your experience as a lawyer, is it common for judges to be ripping into lawyers? Does that happen a lot?
If they're pissed.
No, but have you seen that happen a lot where the judges, to me, I was like, what is going on with that judge? Because usually the most I've seen, it's not like I've seen a lot of judges, but the most I've seen judges do is, if anything, they'll be bored. Like, counselor, move on, counsel. Like, they'll be bored, or they'll try to speed it up.
And they make it a little aggravated.
Yeah. Okay, so it is common for judges to get aggravated by that sometimes.
Well, yeah, but but I'm talking aggravated as in human. Like you said, you might see them breathe a little heavier. But isn't that the same thing you would do? Like, even when you're trying to be professional, sometimes you just can't help it because you're like, I have denied this person's objection 17 times and they still keep asking. But I'm saying, it's not like that. No, they're not coming out of their faces saying, I'm going to hold you in contempt. I'm talking normal human behavior. Like, I've seen judges just be, you know what better word for it? A little exasperated.
A little exasperated. And I want to get back to Lillie, but I just
no, this dude was pissed.
Yeah, when you have, I always feel like in any situation, when you have all the power, it's a bad look. Like the underdog can be like, go back to first year law school, right? But when you have all the power and you are the judge and you know nobody can really talk smack back to you, it seems a little odd to me. But again, I wasn't there. Lillie was there. She said that it was definitely frustrating. It seems so odd to me that somebody with so much power that you can't clap back at, they can hold you in contempt, is like yelling at you to go back to first year law school, which I would imagine is super humiliating for a lawyer. So
but like Lillie said, he was trying to go back and forth with the judge. So
he wouldn't shut up.
Yeah, he wouldn't stop. And the judge does have the power to hold you in contempt. I just think it's something that we're not used to seeing. And yes, it is an extraordinary remedy that usually tends to be reserved if you do something like like if you are doing some type of questioning or badgering or things that you really know you shouldn't be doing. But this guy was arguing back and forth with the judge, and
understandable.
This has been going on for days.
No, understandable. Thank you. I just wanted to know, like, have you seen it before? So it's not common, but it can happen. But the guy was actually not acting like a regular attorney, arguing back and forth with the judge. Now, Amazing Tribe said that judge in the whole courtroom needs a peanut butter sandwich.
Yes.
Everybody needed a rest. And I wanted to thank B for the super chat. You said, and we're going to answer this in a little while, once we get past Lillie's recollections, could Tasha's attorney's actions be grounds for a mistrial? We'll answer that after we get through what Lillie actually saw. Okay. So when the judge told them, like, a first year law student should know this, was that, I know that you guys were only there for 2 hours. Was that earlier or was that
We was only there for 2 hours, but we wasn't in that courtroom much because I told you, we took a break and we went to lunch for about an hour. I'll be honest, it was such a mess. Nothing got accomplished. The jury never came in. What I didn't even get much information today. I'm giving you what I have.
Well, listen, what you have is good because we're going on a vibe check. Listen, anybody can read a court transcript. Anybody. Yeah. However, and Esquire Johnda also knows this, you need a vibe check because the vibe check will let you know where things are going more than any transcript actually could. That's why there are people actually, in big cases, you'll have your team of lawyers, but sometimes, a lot of times, if you have the money for it, they'll have somebody sitting in the courtroom actually observing everything for a vibe check. And then later on, all the counsel sits down and be like, okay, let's see how our strategy went. What's going on? What did you observe? Because sometimes when you're in there, you're like, I'm killing it. And the people in the back are like, girl, no, stop. The judge hates you. So I want to know, so when the judge said, okay, you need to go back to law school, did things wrap up shortly after that? Or was that did they come with something else? Like, okay, all right, we want to do something else.
Tasha's people were trying to present these videos. And one of them was Azalea Banks doing an interview with, I think, Charlamagne the God. And they had already told them they couldn't use that. Then they tried to present Offset's father, which did a Facebook private chat. They tried to use that when he was speaking against Cardi, which that was not presented into the mistrial as well. I mean, pre-trial, I'm sorry. I apologize. They couldn't use that. Then it was, they tried to use Nicki Minaj situation, that fight Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. No, because they're gonna have it's gonna be in trial itself too, so they could not use that.
It's also prejudicial.
Well,
yes, there you go.
Let me correct you. Was it Nicki Minaj or was it Jade, who was Tekashi's girlfriend? I thought she was going
they brought up Nicki Minaj, all of that stuff.
Did they? Now, a quick question. Let's pause. Take a glance around the courtroom. Kimmy wants to know, did you see the lead attorney in the courtroom?
He was there. Yes, we talked. Yes, okay. He was there.
So listen, all it's in Atlanta, Northern Georgia. Everybody was there. Okay, so from the time that the judge admonished him about going back to law school, then what happened? Then what was the next? Like, what happened after that?
Because it was things he was not going to allow, because like he said something about it would be prejudice to the jurors for Cardi. We went to break.
Gotcha. No, when you
and
went
then
to
we come back to break. Cardi's attorney is arguing with the judge
about.
So they sent us to lunch.
But wait,
I'm telling you.
Slow down. What could you glean what the argument was about or what the disagreement was about?
It was still about the videos, because Tasha K really wanted to show the videos, but he was like, they do not help your client. Why do you want to show something that does not help you? He's trying to help them, I'm being honest. It does not help your client. But he feels because Tasha K wanted them to be seen for some reason.
Lack of client control.
He was like, we cannot rewrite laws, and it does not help your client. It'll benefit Cardi.
Now, Johnda brings up a good case. What point we're going to touch on that in a second. Lack of client control, because again, maybe you have a point, Johnda, when you say maybe Tasha thinks she's the smartest person in the room, and her lawyers are caving into it for whatever reason. Now, I have a question with you, Lillie. Did you see any interaction that whole time, on break, on recess, on whatever, between Tasha K and her husband? Do they seem
the first break that we took,
and
I've never, from me going there, she was never like touchy with her husband, but today she gave her husband a big hug.
Like that one
she
thing,
went
like,
to the bathroom,
baby, when I rest in your arms.
Went at the door for her. He's a gentleman.
Okay.
So she came out and they were standing right there, but she made sure we saw it. Mm-hmm. She gave him a big hug.
Okay.
It was almost a little stagey to me.
But there's nothing wrong with that in court. Court is theater.
She got to do what she got to do.
You walk in, you kiss the baby, you say hello, you save the kitty falling out of the tree. Sometimes you got to be a little stagey. Like, it is theater. Now, I want to ask you, when the judge adjourned things, so how did the judge leave things? So they're arguing to get videotapes in. If this was a very brief trial, the judge is like, no. Now, I've heard rumors, and it's been conflicting, that he did allow one video in.
Yes, one. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but he did. I'm going to be honest. Because I'm going to be honest, it's hard to keep up with it because it's so much going on, you guys, and it makes you dizzy and it's only coming, I'm not bashing her, it's only coming from Tasha K's camp. It makes it hard to even keep up with it. So I can't remember exactly which video. I'm going to be honest. I can't remember exactly which video it was.
Okay, but there was.
But they going to commentate the video that it was. He told them they got to go back and alter it because it's certain things that cannot be heard in court.
Yes.
That's what I heard. So that's what I heard. That's why I was a little bit confused. Thank you for clarifying. So Kimmy was right. There was one video admitted. However, the video was not admitted in its entirety. So it needs to be altered to admit evidence that may be prejudicial. And then they have to come back. The judge has to review it again and make sure everything was deleted. And then it can be admitted into evidence. Okay. So the judge gave permission on limited grounds that if they can alter it to his liking, it will be allowed in court. Okay, that's great. So they got one thing admitted, right?
Well,
he still got to look and say it may not be admitted.
Okay, so Johnda, so it wasn't admitted. It's just saying that if it can be doctored. Johnda, what's your opinion on that?
I'm still stuck on the fact that the judge is telling them that none of this benefits your client or impacts this case. And he's right, because what they are attempting to do, which is actually good we're having this because it kind of transitions us into the cause of action itself. What they're attempting to do with this series of videos, because and I think Lillie, correct me if I'm wrong, they're all kind of geared towards the same thing, which is to paint her as a bad person by virtue of inflaming the jury to say that she is a racist. She says bad things about women. Exactly. I mean, that she's a racist and a colorist, etc. However, and this is why the judge was saying it doesn't benefit your client. is, and he's right, because it's not so much that the videos hurt Tasha's case, because sometimes something cannot benefit you, doesn't hurt you, it's just not helping you. And the reason why this doesn't help is because the judge, in the order that the judge entered back in July, that was entered by the court in July, where they dismissed where they dismissed Tasha K's counterclaims. The judge, actually, was a very expansive order. It was like 20 some odd pages long, and it's actually very good. So Tisa, because you're going to still be doing this case, I'll send it to you because it's a good one.
We're going to have you back too, Johnda.
Well, of course.
We're not.
I know that you love the law too. So that's why I said it's a good one, as in it's actually juicy, because the court practically, remember when the judge, one of the umpteen times he told Tasha to settle this case, and one of the umpteen times he told them to settle this case was back in July when he dismissed her charges. What the court did, and that's why this is such a cool order, so Lillie, you should read it too, is the judge practically gave a preview of how he felt about certain elements, not just, and this is the key thing in terms of Tasha and her legal team and their decision making, it wasn't just a preview about how he felt about Tasha's case, i.e. dismissing it. It was a preview about how he felt about Cardi's case. And one of the things that he talked about was the issue of Cardi being a public figure. You can be a public figure generally, in layman's terms, or for limited purposes. The judge says there's no question that given her level of fame, good and bad, the fame and the infamous, that she is considered an all around, which is what they say, an all around public figure, like the highest level of public figure there is, which of course means it's harder to have these types of cases for them, because given the largesse of their personality, of them as a personality, as we've talked about, or as you've talked about, there's the expectation that you're gonna have your haters. However, so the reason why I say this, tying it into what the judge was saying, is given that the court has already determined, and will probably tell the jury, look, I've already made this determination. Given that the court has already made the determination that she is an all-around public figure, so the jury needs to employ the highest level when determining whether or not she prevails on this. There really isn't anything that videos of her saying something that doesn't have anything to do with the allegations against her in this case. There's nothing that changes. Does that make sense?
Well, because I want to interject though, because this is my question. When the judge is saying this doesn't help your case, right? There is the defense of truth. I'm just expanding, playing devil's advocate. Oh, yeah. By showing all, and you guys, this is not an endorsement. I'm literally playing devil's advocate, right? Yeah.
And that's like saying, literally black letter law. You're not making it up.
Yes, exactly, right? So when the judge is saying, listen, you can't have, this does not help you. This does not do what you think it does.
It doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't help you either.
But here's the thing. I feel like the defense attorneys are maybe banking on the fact that we want to show that a lot of the stuff that she said about you may be based in truth. She might have been harsh about it, but it's based in truth. You are violent. You are this. You are that. Now, I'm not saying any of this is true, but do you think that the misguided defense attorneys are like, if we can just show she's not an angel, then it'll take the sting out of the bite? Because there's a difference between, in my mind, saying you lied about beer bottles, you lied about STDs, and then you got 8 other things saying you lied about saying I was a bad person. You lied about saying I was violent. You lied about me saying I don't have any home training. If they can show video to show okay, I might have said 10 things, but 8 of them look like it may be true, then now we're only looking at 2 things, and that might lower our damages in the future. Do you think that that would be a viable defense? Or do you even think that that's where they're not even viable? Because anything's viable, right? You try it and sees. Do you think that's maybe where her lawyers are going? And that's why they're so desperate to get some type of footage of Cardi B looking like crazy into the record?
I think long short, they want anything that will have the jury think she's a bad person, because essentially that's all they have. So they want anything where the jury may go back there and say, you know what, Tasha K may have said all of these horrible things about her, some true, some not, whatever, but she's such a trash human being, we don't care. It's not that big of a deal. And given that the standard is one that literally the way that juries or courts view it is largely subjective, that's why you can't really say if somebody said this, then you know that the jury's going to rule this way. If somebody said that, it's not as black and white as a criminal, let's say a criminal case where, either, there's if there was a knife and it was in your hand and it, and whatever, it's not like that. So yes, the hope is that because there is a level of subjectivity to the very high standard of malice, that if they can just get the jury to believe that she's a bad person, then the jury will go soft on the issue of malice, because they'd say, well, was she really being malicious to somebody who's just as vile as she is?
Well, that was.
And I'm not saying either one of them are vile. I'm saying
exactly
this is what they want in their heads.
So I just want to take a minute and break in and say, Dana Tyler, thank you so much for the super chat. And also Nerva Rock, thank you so much for the super chat. You guys, there's 1,800 people in here. Probably I got 48 likes because that's how y'all always do.
Like.
If you guys can hit the like button, come on, y'all. Y'all know how this goes. This YouTube, baby. And also, I would appreciate it. I'm going to be doing live trial coverage with Lillie and Johnda as many days as they can join until the conclusion. This trial might be wrapped up sooner than we all think, right?
I don't know about Friday, but I think it's going to be with the jury. If not by Friday, I think Monday,
Hopefully.
Tuesday at the latest.
Yes. So it's going to be wrapped up. But you guys, in the meantime, we're going to be going live at the same time every single day. Make sure you subscribe and also hit that bell for notifications so you can get that gentle reminder. You can turn the notifications off when the trial's over. But listen, do what you want. It's just my suggestion. Now, here's the thing I also want to ask you, and this has been on my mind heavy, right? If they didn't have, in your opinion, Johnda, right? And then Lillie, we're going to go to you because I want to get a vibe check for when you were there, for how the jury was looking at Tasha and acting.
The jury wasn't there today.
No, not today, but yesterday, right?
Okay.
But Johnda, this has been on my mind heavy, and I want to get your professional opinion. I know that if you are a public figure, the charges they're trying to accuse Tasha K are super hard to prove. Super hard to prove. So if Tasha K had not told on herself, would this case look a whole lot different? Or do you think this case just still would have been as strong? Because Tasha K, in my mind, with that recording, she proved malice. And malice, to me, is one of the hardest things to prove.
Absolutely. I think that if we were still stuck just at the very beginning of this mess, so I'm going down the road you want me to go down, but just with an additional qualification. If this was just about the Star Marie video, and then, of course, Tasha not taking the stand because she does herself no favors, then this would be a much better case for her, because ultimately, and the court to a certain degree acknowledged that ultimately, if you interview someone else and you say, look, I had reasonable belief that what they were telling was the truth, and at the end of the day, even if they weren't, then they're the malicious one, not me. I tried whatever my verification method is, how, you talk the talk. Then it would be no different than anybody else being sued by a celebrity. So I think you're absolutely right. Now, Tasha taking a stand is just a wild card unto itself. I think that Tasha's not only taking the stand, but even her running her mouth and her tweets with Twitter, I think, up to and including where we are now. The stuff with her wiping her butt with the cease and desist. The stuff where she went back and forth with Cardi saying, well, I'll take it down if you pay me. There were instances where she basically said, I don't care at this point whether or not it's true, because she did admit that at a certain point this became personal. So she did herself no favors in court, because you can always try to contextualize videos and say, I was just pandering to my audience. The wilder I act, the higher my view count. Not a great excuse, but people do.
Is view count.
Exactly, because that's the entertainment game, period. Give me some razzle dazzle, whether it's celebrity gossip or whether it's TikTok dances, right? So the more I entertain you, the more you come back. Tisha's gonna get extra views because tonight she's bold, she's belly dance, she's done all kinds of stuff.
Which I want.
Yeah, but she just wouldn't zip it. And then once she was in court, you are absolutely right, she took away their ability to try to soften the blows of those videos, because they're bad. But again, I mean, you just hope that you say the right thing to the right person, that when they go back in that jury room, one, maybe even three people will stand their ground and go,
yes,
these videos, don't watch reality TV. Don't women always accuse each other? All you need is, right? What do you need? Yeah. Some guys to be like, aren't chicks always talking smack?
Always argue. They get jealous. They're like cats.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Is one sadistic man to be like, that's what women do,
Exactly. But when you stand there and go, yeah, I did it, and what of it?
Now, listen, I want to actually, did you bring a good point? Lillie, last thing I want to ask you, and then I have one last question for Johnda, because you guys, again, this was a surprise to everybody that this court case was so short today. Listen, even Lillie was like, she paid for parking all day and was only there for 2 hours. Like, what? Right? So it was surprisingly short. I don't even think the judge knew. But again, Tasha K's lawyers, it seems like, came in bumbling and fumbling, and they somehow at the same time made this more complicated, drew it out, but still somehow injured their client, right? So everybody was surprised that today they did not launch their defense. Now, I said yesterday they started it, but I said, you really haven't seen anything yet, because only a fool will launch a killer defense and then cut to commercial for 12 hours until you show up again. You want that full time so you can put on a show and dazzle them. So I thought that they were really going to come with the fireworks today. It looks like the fireworks, if they don't mess it up again, are going to be tomorrow. But I want to ask you, Lillie, on the vibe check, right? What's the energy? And this is just your opinion. Nobody is holding you to fact. What do you think right now is the energy coming off the jury toward Cardi B and toward Tasha K? And by them, I even mean toward their lawyers too. What's the vibe coming off?
Okay, because the jury wasn't in today because they didn't get that far. But going from yesterday,
yes,
towards Cardi, they don't have a problem with Cardi. Towards Tasha K, everybody frustrated with Tasha K.
Even the judge,
the jurors, the people sitting in the audience.
I heard that too.
Frustrated with Tasha K and her attorneys.
They do say, and again, because you don't want to kick somebody when they're down. And to me, Tasha K is down bad right now. But you guys, let this also be a cautionary tale. Sometimes you got to go to court and you got to go to war. Sometimes you're like, no, like I cannot sleep in my bed and have a self-esteem and let you know that then let you do this to me. I must go to court. This cannot be. But other times when it's something, and again, you know that old saying, my dad always said, whenever somebody says it's not about the money, it's always about the money. And whenever somebody says it's about the money, it's never about the money. It's about the principle. It seemed like with Tasha, even though she was coming for money, it wasn't about the money. It was about, I'm not Tasha, but Cardi. It wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. And of course,
the money is nothing to Cardi.
Yeah, and if Tasha, and this is just me, who knows? Maybe Cardi was like, yeah, and you apologize and kiss my feet, and we still going to court. But it seemed to me at various opportunities, if Tasha had swallowed her pride, if Tasha had got on and maybe did an interview and been like, listen, Star Marie said that, I don't know if it's true, blah, 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 blah. And if she had just, even after all that stuff, apologized to Cardi publicly, it would have been a little humble pie. But Tasha has loyal fans. But because for whatever reason, and again, I'm not saying it's foolishness, only she knows what her reasons are. She decided to persist. She is now looking at a suit that could potentially be $10 million or more. And this is the scariest thing. I know people are like, oh, this is going to change YouTube. No, it's not. Because what Tasha did.
It'll change YouTube for her.
For her. Thank you. It'll change it for her. And the most dangerous thing is, even if this is a $10 million punitive and compensatory damages, I honestly believe Tasha can eat that. Now, it'll hurt, but I think that she can eat that. The danger is now everybody that Tasha is wronged coming because they smell blood. And now they have the Cardi case. So it already shows that she has a habit. This is part of her character. So this is, if I was Tasha, I'd be worried about. This case I might be able to eat, but now everybody else that I wrong is going to smell blood. So again.
And not everybody's going to pay $2.99 or $4.99 or whatever for her app if YouTube decides to take her channel, because that is that to me is the bigger concern. There could literally be there could literally be a ruling against her and the damages be minimal or something that she can pay. It could be as low as a couple $100,000. You know, the court doesn't have to, you know, or I'm sorry, the jury doesn't have to go with some high dollar award. You know, they could just do enough to pinch her a little bit. But the main thing is we are going to find against you. And of course, that never looks good for anybody. And the part of the reason that she needs to be concerned is it won't look good when it comes to Google, because why should they have someone on their platform who a major celebrity has now gotten a judgment against, because not only have they lied on them, and I'm saying that's if she's found.
Of course.
But
Jack, Google owns YouTube. That's why she said Google. So go on.
Sorry about that. That not only did they lie, and unapologetically so, but that they did it maliciously and relentlessly, and given the alleged standards that YouTube arbitrarily decides they want to enforce. Sorry, YouTube, but it's just what I'm just going by what I see.
Algorithm. Listen.
I know, I'm sorry. But given the standards that of YouTube and I mean, and their policies are stated, the fact that there are many pages that have nothing to do with this per se, but just in terms of like certain types of hate speech, political speech, and all kinds of stuff, as you know, as a YouTuber, they crack down hard on that. You know, even stuff related to the pandemonium and people saying stuff about vaccines and stuff. YouTube is playing no games. So now you're talking about someone on your platform profiting, because that's the other piece. It's not just the use of their platform, but profiting from the use of their platform when it has been found in a court of law that they used said platform to maliciously go after someone. That is not a great look for YouTube. And if this case does not go in her favor, there will be a case in federal court, not in some little rinky-dink court somewhere on the corner in Georgia, but in a federal court saying that this woman does this thing. And not just once, but repeatedly, because that's what we're really talking about, especially with that malice standard, that this was not only nasty in terms of the comments on their face, but that it was ongoing and relentless. And
they allowed it.
As of yesterday, still had not taken the videos down.
Yep.
So,
now, okay, so
are they down today? Because they weren't yesterday. Are they?
Well, I don't know if the videos.
She hasn't taken them down.
Okay, so she hasn't taken them down. So again, you bring up an important angle that a lot of people didn't see. Tasha's main thing isn't the money. I mean, the money could actually really pinch her, but it's her future ability to earn money on YouTube, because by Tasha being convicted as guilty, she will have violated the community standards on multiple times. If they do not completely take away her channel, and I'm not wishing.
Yeah, we're not suggesting that. And we're saying it as a concern. This is a legit concern that could happen.
Yeah, so and if they do not completely take down her channel, she will definitely be highly monitored for a while. Like, her videos will get a manual review before they can be monetized. It will be highly, highly monetized. So it might actually take a little bit of her magic out that people like. So this is another thing that—
and demonetizing previous videos.
Exactly. And this is the thing why Tasha K may have, it seems like, started her own app and moved it off, because she's trying to protect herself, saying, listen, Patreon might go, YouTube might go. I need something. The same way we do a backup channel, she's doing it on a bigger level. So listen, ladies, I want to think— oh, wait, Missy says, what about her backup channel? She's been re-uploading videos there. Yes, Missy, thank you so much for the super chat. Yes, she has been re-uploading videos there, but when YouTube comes to strike, they'll rip all the channels down. The little algorithm robots, right, will just be like, it matches, pull that down too. I do want to say also, you guys, we have 11 people in here. Please hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. I do have to say, listen, today we thought was going to be action. It looks like tomorrow they're getting into the mud.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Hopefully, Lillie will be in court. Johnda will also be joining us tomorrow. Lillie, also, please, let me know, you guys, if it's a thing. But we expect you guys tonight. I'm going live at 8 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be going live every single day until the trial is over. Again, Tasha K, this is painful at this point, right? You know, because that's the thing, like I said, when I see two people fighting, I like to see worthy adversaries. When you see somebody wiping the floor with someone, at first you're like, and then you're like, this is sad. Stop it. You're hurting them. Like, this is not necessary. Tasha K's people fumbled and bumbled their way into court, managed to piss the judge off even more. Even Tasha was looking at them a little crazy, like, what is going on? Now, someone did say that Tasha came and said, court went great, they're opening another business, and ada.
God bless her.
God bless her. God bless her. But this is our eyewitnesses account. This is, of course, reading the court documents, not the transcripts, but other reporting on the case from Legal 360. If you guys don't know, get an account there. It's super cool. And, you know, of course, our attorney, in-house attorney, is on Pacer and whatnot, getting the actual, you know, inside thing. But I just want to thank my guests, Johnda and Lillie, so much for coming. We will definitely be here tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, since there is going to be dirt, we're going to lead with Lillie. Lillie is going to tell us pace by pace what happened. And then Johnda is going to jump in and give her opinion. And I hope to God, probably it's going to be her opinion of how Tasha K's lawyers are messing up so bad. She ain't never seen anything like it.
I'm trying
You're just going to be sitting there like this.
I'm trying to be good.
Send help. Pull the fire alarm. Listen, if the way things are going, if I was Tasha K, I'd be like, pull the fire alarm. Just get out of there. Cut. I was in the end, the little
I'm
clerk.
still pulling for my fellow barristers. You can do it. Come on.
Listen, if they somehow got a high profile client, anyone, reach for the stars, because look who is up in the reach for the stars. So listen, you guys, thank you so much for joining. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8. This was a slow day for the case, but Johnda and Lillie, thank you so much because you guys really
thank
broke
you.
Down.
You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Definitely. Oh, and last thing, Lillie, Instagram, and she has a YouTube channel. Her contacts are in the description box. Just click on it. You can get straight to it. And of course, attorney Johnda, she has a thriving podcast. She has a beautiful book that she's written. Of course, she's on Instagram and YouTube. All their contact information is down in the box. Make sure you click, show them some support. Let's get this going. Sharon is Karen. All right, guys? All right.
Thank you, Teresa. Bye, you guys.
All right.
Bye,
bye.
See y'all tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so much. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.